Have you ever stayed in a relationship that was destroying you? If a friend or partner devalued you, you'd leave. But you can't leave your job. Even though your boss yells at you, your tasks are pointless. And by Sunday, you already feel sick at the thought of Monday morning. You tell yourself, well, it's just a job, not a spouse. I can tolerate it. And you do. For years, let's be honest. If your best friend described the same kind of relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend, you'd say, get out of there, that's abuse. But you don't think that way about work. Because work isn't about love. It's about money, status, obligations. But psychologically, the mechanism is the same. And today we're going to break down why you're stuck in a work relationship that your friends would run from. Why your brain has turned the office into a toxic partner. And how this actually works, But let me warn you right away. We're not going to shout quit immediately. If you hear that and you're not ready, you'll just close this video. Our goal is to understand the trap. The solution will come later. Deal? Let's go. First, you need to understand one thing. Every toxic relationship has a cycle. You know it if you've read about abusive relationships. Tension, explosion, reconciliation, or honeymoon phase. Then tension again. The same thing happens with work. Tension builds up over weeks' deadlines, discontent, silent contempt from your boss. You walk on eggshells. Then an explosion happens, a public scolding in a meeting, humiliation, passive-aggressive messages. You feel terrible. You want to quit everything. But then a miracle occurs. You get praised for some trivial thing. You get a bonus. Your boss suddenly acts like a human being. Honeymoon phase. You think, oh, things are getting better. I was overthinking it. You relax. Then tension builds again, and the cycle repeats. What's the trap? Your brain doesn't remember constant horror, it remembers contrast. After an explosion, any tiny bit of praise triggers a dopamine hit. It feels like you're valued, but you're valued like a dog that gets petted after being hit. You get used to this roller coaster. Good days feel like a reward for your patience. You start to believe that if you endure just a little longer, there'll be more good days. But there won't be, because the system is built on unpredictability. If every day were awful, you'd quit in 2 weeks. If every day were good, you'd stay happily. But when they alternate randomly, you get stuck. Like in a casino, you're waiting for that jackpot praise, recognition, decent treatment. The slot machine feeds you just enough rare wins to keep you playing. This is the first reason you tolerate it. Not because you're weak, but because your brain has fallen into the classic trap of intermittent reinforcement. You're like a rat pressing a lever, hoping for food. And food comes just often enough to keep you from leaving. But there's a second, deeper layer. You didn't just fall into this trap, you came into it already trained. People who tolerate abuse at work almost always tolerated it before. In childhood, in their youth, in past relationships. Or they witnessed it in their family. Your brain learned one terrible thing. Closeness and violence can go together. That yelling is normal. That humiliation is care. That if you're not criticized, you're not wanted. Think about it. Your father might have yelled at your mother and then brought her flowers. So you learned. Love is when it hurts first, then feels good. Or your mother silently endured humiliation at work and complained at home, but never quit. So you learned. Work is suffering, that's just how it is. Or your first boss was a tyrant, but you lasted 3 years and even got promoted. And your brain recorded. Patience paye off. Only it doesn't. It just becomes a habit. The worst part is you don't even realize this transfer. You think you're a rational adult. You weigh pros and cons. Salary, commute, familiar colleagues. But behind those calculations lies a child's fear. If I leave, no one will hire me. If I leave, I won't survive. If I leave, I'm a weakling and a traitor. Those aren't your thoughts. They're the thoughts of that child who once learned that it's safer to endure than to run. Third reason, shame and guilt. You want to leave, but you can't. Because then you'd have to admit you were wrong. That you endured all those years for nothing. That you failed. That you're a loser. It's better to keep tolerating than to look in the mirror one morning and say, I wasted years on this dump. That you know that feeling you've packed your suitcase, but you can't walk out the door? You come up with 100 reasons to stay. What if the new place is worse? What if I regret it? What if my boss changes? What if they give me a bonus? What if stop? Do you hear yourself? These are the same excuses that people in abusive relationships use for years. He hit me, but then he cried. He humiliated me, but he was tired from work. He devalued me, but he bought me flowers. Work doesn't hit you, but does the same thing. It takes your time, health, self-esteem. And in return, it gives rare crumbs to keep you from leaving. And you stay, because deep inside you live a deep belief. You don't deserve better. You couldn't handle better. Better isn't for you. I want you to imagine for a second. What if you weren't you, but your own child or best friend or younger sibling? And they came to you and said, I'm being humiliated at work. I'm scared every morning. I hate my life. But I can't leave because it might get worse. What would you say to them? Would you say, suck it up, idiot, everyone lives like that? No. You'd say, get out of there. You deserve a normal life. So why don't you say that to yourself? Because you're already inside a system that makes you doubt yourself. That whispers. Maybe it's your fault. Maybe you're not working hard enough. Maybe you're imagining things. And you start trying to prove yourself. You work more. You take work home on weekends. You smile at your boss while lying awake at night. You become the perfect employee for this abuser. Because somewhere deep down, you hope to earn decent treatment. But here's the truth. You don't need to earn it. Decent treatment is the baseline. It's like clean water. It's not given for good behavior. It should be there by default. If at work you were systematically humiliated, ignored, overloaded without gratitude, it's not that you're bad. It's that the job is bad. But your brain turned everything upside down. It decided that if things are bad, you must be the one to blame. Because that's how it was in childhood. If your parents yelled, you must have done something wrong. If a teacher humiliated you, you must be stupid. And that logic moved into the office. This is why you're stuck in a relationship your friends would run from. You don't see the difference. A friend betrays you, you cut ties. Work betrays you, you say, well, it's just work. But in essence, it's the same mechanisms. Boundary violations, devaluation, instability, hope for better, and shame for not leaving. Now, I'm going to say something that might make you angry. You don't leave because it benefits you. Not financially, but because it lets you avoid taking responsibility for your own life. As long as you tolerate a bad job, you can complain. You could be the victim. The victim is always right. If I'm a victim, the world is unfair, and I'm a hero for enduring. If I quit, then all responsibility for my happiness falls on me. And what if I can't handle it? What if the problem wasn't the job, but me? That's terrifying. So terrifying that it's better to endure hell than to find out who you are without it. That's not shameful. That's human psychology. We're all afraid of freedom. Because freedom requires action. Suffering allows you to change nothing. You can come home, collapse on the couch, turn on Netflix, and say, I'm so tired from that stupid job. You get sympathy. You're the exhausted hero. But if you quit, there's no sympathy. The question becomes, well, what now? And you don't know. And that fear of the unknown is stronger than the daily pain. You know how they catch monkeys in some places? They put a banana in a narrow cage. The monkey reaches in, grabs the banana, but its clenched fist won't fit back through the opening. The monkey could simply let go of the banana and walk away. But it can't release the banana, and so it gets caught. You're that monkey. Your banana is the illusion of stability. The illusion that patience is a virtue. That if you leave, you'll lose something important. But what are you really losing? Humiliation? Insomnia? Yourself? Maybe it's time to open your hand. I'm not telling you to quit tomorrow morning. But I'm telling you to admit this. You're not in a relationship with your job. You're in an abusive bond. And the first sign is that you make excuses for the one who hurts you. He's just demanding. She's tired. Our business is complicated. Stop. No business is worth your sanity. No salary replaces peaceful sleep. No status is worth being afraid to open your messaging app in the morning. Remember, work is a contract, not a destiny. You sell your time and skills. They pay you money. That's it. The contract doesn't say you have to tolerate yelling, disrespect, unpaid overtime, gaslighting, or feeling like nobody. If those things are present, the contract is broken not by you, by them. and you have every right to terminate it. Not out of weakness, out of strength. Because respecting yourself is not weakness. It's the only thing you truly own. The second part of this video will be practical. We'll break down 3 small steps you can take today, even if you're not ready to resign. Steps that won't blow up your life, but will start pulling you out of this roller coaster. This is not a call to revolution. It's a call to stop lying to yourself that everything is fine when it isn't. Because normal means you're not afraid of Monday. Normal means you don't replay conversations with your boss before sleep. Normal means work is part of your life, not all of it. And if that's not the case for you, your brain is lying to you. You're stuck in a relationship your friends would leave. And it's time to at least look at the door. Every time you think, well, he didn't mean it. She just has a personality. Everyone works like this, you extend your suffering. Excuses are the glue that keeps you in an abusive bond. Your task for the next week is to catch yourself making an excuse and say out loud or silently, "Stop. I'm making excuses for disrespect." That's not normal. You don't need to argue with your boss. You don't need to write a resignation letter. Just notice, like a scientist recording facts. Today I was criticized for something I was praised for last week. That's not logic, that's manipulation. Today I'm afraid to ask a question. That's not my stupidity, that's a culture of fear. Just notice no judgments, no drama. Notice and move on. This observational skill destroys the illusion of normalcy. Toxic systems only work in isolation. The more you stay silent, the more you're convinced the problem is you. Find at least one person you trust, not a coworker, but someone outside. A friend, a former classmate, a therapist, even an anonymous online chat. Tell them the facts. Without whining, without emotion. Just, they yell at me, overload me, pay late, devalue me. Then ask, is that normal? You'll be surprised an outsider will almost always say no, that's not normal. Because you've gotten used to it. A fresh pair of eyes sees the abuse immediately. If you don't have such a person, keep a journal. Each evening, write down 3 facts about what happened, no conclusions. After a week, read it back. Then ask yourself, if this journal belonged to your best friend, what would you advise them? You're afraid to quit because you think you won't find another job. You think, check it. Open a job site. Spend 15 minutes. Don't send your resume. Don't apply. Just look. Are there openings in your field? How many? What are the salaries? What do they require? You'll be surprised there are probably more options than you think. Fear feeds on uncertainty. Once you turn uncertainty into data, fear shrinks. It doesn't disappear, but it shrinks. Now the second fear. What if a new place is just as bad or worse? Maybe. Or maybe it's better. But right now you know this place is bad. You only stand to lose something bad. You stand to gain a chance at something good. It's like sitting in a puddle and being afraid to stand up because it might rain, but you're already wet. People leave jobs in 3 situations. They get fired, there's a big public scandal, or their health collapses. Don't wait for that. You don't have to push yourself to a heart attack or a nervous breakdown to get permission to leave. This is your life. You can leave simply because you don't like it. No explanation needed. No drama. Work is not a prison sentence. A contract can be terminated at any time, but you're waiting for the last straw. Why? Because it makes it easier to explain to yourself and others. I left because he insulted me in front of everyone. But what if he's been quietly insulting you for a year without a clear public incident? Will you keep tolerating it? Why do you need that public scandal? You need permission from yourself. So give it to yourself. Right now, I give you permission to leave a job that's killing you. Even if you can't afford a month without pay. Even if you're scared. Even if you're not a perfect employee. Even if your boss was kind to you once. It doesn't matter. Your mental health is more important than anyone's convenience. But if quitting right now is truly impossible, start preparing. Set a deadline. For example, 3 months. In that time you can save a little financial cushion, update your resume, do online interviews in the evenings, send out applications. You don't have to jump into the unknown. Just start moving. One small step each week. Look at job listings on Monday. Send 1 resume on Wednesday. On Friday, read up on how to answer, why did you leave your last job? Small steps don't scare the brain. It doesn't panic. After a month, you'll see you have options. Then the decision to stay or leave won't come from fear, it will come from a calm choice. Here's something else. When you start taking action, your boss or colleagues might feel it. Because you'll change. You'll stop being so afraid. You'll become calmer. Then two things can happen. Either they start treating you better because they sense their levers of pressure no longer work, or they increase the pressure to push you back into victim mode. If it's the latter, that's an excellent sign that you're doing the right thing. Just observe and keep taking your small steps. A special case. Financial dependency. I can't leave. I have loans, kids, a mortgage. I understand. That's real. But let's be honest. You can't leave right now. But you can start looking for a second source of income. Freelance in the evenings, weekend gigs, selling things you don't need, learning a new skill online. One person I know spent a year learning web design at night while working in a warehouse. Then he quit and has been self-employed for 3 years. He's not a hero. He just took one small step every day. You can too. Mortgages aren't forever. Loans get paid off. But your nerves, you only get one set. If you're choosing between financial stability and mental health, choose health. Because without it, you won't earn the mortgage anyway, you'll end up in the hospital. Now let's go back to the abusive relationship metaphor. Imagine you have a friend who constantly criticizes you, devalues you, says you can't do anything right, but sometimes gives you gifts and tells you how much you mean to them. Would you call that friendship? No. Now imagine that friend is your job. Why do you allow your job to do what you wouldn't allow a friend to do? Because work pays you money, and a friend doesn't. Money is serious. But at what point does money become a license for abuse? If you were paid $1 million a month, would you tolerate humiliation? Maybe yes. What if you were paid 10% above market rate, but had to stand on your head? What if you're paid the average rate, but humiliated? What is your price? That's not a rhetorical question. Really think about it. How much are you willing to tolerate for your salary? If you're willing to tolerate a lot, it means you don't respect yourself. Because self-respect is not for sale. Or rather, it can be sold, but buying it back later costs 100 times more. That I'm not an idealist. I understand we all work for money. But there's a difference between I'm bored and I'm being humiliated. There's a difference between a demanding boss and an abusive boss. A demanding boss says, "You made a mistake, fix it." An abusive boss says, "You're an idiot, your hands are useless." Do you feel the difference? The first is about the task. The second is about the person. Once criticism becomes personal, it's abuse. Once you're compared to others to humiliate you, it's abuse. Once you're afraid to ask a question, it's abuse. That's not a management style. It's violence. And it doesn't make you better. It makes you anxious, insecure, and sick. You know what's saddest? Many of you who have watched this far have already realized I'm describing your job. And you'll still tell yourself, "Yes, but I have no choice." There's always a choice. It's just not perfect. Either stay in the familiar hell or go into the unknown. But the unknown isn't necessarily hell, it could be heaven. You'll never know until you try. And your familiar hell, it actually gets worse every year. Because you get more tired, believe in yourself less, and it becomes harder to find a new job with a battered self-esteem. The longer you tolerate, the higher the price. Not in money and health, relationships, and your ability to enjoy life, that I want you to remember one phrase. You're not a tree. You can get up and leave. At any moment. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now, mentally. Just allow yourself the thought. I can leave. You don't have to actually leave. Just know that the option exists. That thought alone changes your state. Because when you know you have an exit, you stop being a victim. And when you're not a victim, you can behave differently. You can calmly say to your boss, "I don't agree with that tone." You can stop taking work home. You can say no to overtime. And if you get punished for it, well, you know you can leave. Paradoxically, when you're ready to leave, you're less likely to be pushed to that point. Abusers sense victims. Once you stop being a victim, the pressure often eases. So let's summarize. You're stuck in a work relationship your friends would run from because 1. The cycle of abuse keeps you hooked with rare good days. 2. Childhood experiences taught you that enduring is safer. 3. Shame and guilt prevent you from admitting you made a mistake. 4. Fear of the unknown is stronger than daily pain. What to do? Notice and stop making excuses. Create an external anchor, a person or a journal. Test your fears against reality. Look at job listings. Start small steps without drama. Allow yourself the thought, I can leave. And finally, if after this video you change, nothing, I won't judge you. Change is scary, but just remember this day. A year from now, when you're still tolerating, or when you have a panic attack, or when you wake up crying on a Sunday evening, remember that today you could have started. And you didn't. That's not a reproach. It's a mirror. You are the director of your own life. And only you decide how many seasons this series called Toxic Job will run. If you're ready to change at least one small thing this week, write the word step in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. Promise yourself out loud or in writing. I will take one small step in the next 7 days. Choose which one. Don't lie to yourself. You've lied enough. It's time for the truth. Like this video if it hit home. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdowns. And remember, a normal job doesn't make you want to run into the woods and never come out. You deserve a normal job. Not perfect. Normal. Where you're not humiliated. That's not a privilege. That's a basic right. That's all. Now act.